My name is Martin Strbacka. I found out that my surname is quite hard to pronounce for you, so just call me Martin. I want to tell you something about our Turris Omnia, which is an open router for small networks. But at first, a little bit about our company we work for and our history. I hope that some of you already know who is CZNIC, but just for sure, we are the operator of CZTLD domain, and we have a originally small, now quite big department called Labs, and we do projects for the good of the internet. I believe that two of those projects you know quite well. One of them is Birth Routing Daemon, and the second one is not DNS. Other projects are some DNS plugins for browsers and some others. Important note is that everything we do is open source. Maybe you know that 2 years ago we started a project called Turris. I didn't mention it on the previous slide, but it's one of the biggest projects we had so far. It's a security research project for SOHO networks, and the main goals is end user security and improve the situation of SOHO routers. If you tried recently to buy some router for your home, then you probably know that the situation is quite bad. Everything is made in China, and the hardware can be quite good, but if you take a look at the firmware, there is a lot of bugs. It's obsolete, and if you take a look further, there are usually quite a lot of security problems. For these goals, we made a router. We made it by ourselves, and we use it as a security probe. We made 2,000 pieces and distributed it to the end users across Czech Republic. And those users share with us some basically net flow data, and we try to do some security research on top of that. We also try to introduce previously unseen technologies in SOHO networks. One of them is DNSSEC, supported directly on the router, and another one is better IPv6 support. We had quite a lot success with the router itself. And many people ask us if they can buy it somewhere or so. Unfortunately, we cannot sell it, just the router. So we decided to make another router, and just for commercial purposes, we want to try to sell it. And that's the story about Turris Omnia. If you were here on the Netnod spring meeting this year, sorry, there is some update. I don't want it. Cancel. Sorry. If you were here at the Netnod spring meeting, you can saw here Ondřej Filip, our CEO, talking about something called Turris Lite, which is Turris Omnia. It's the former name of this project. And he tried to describe the specification, and he promised it will be a 64-bit PowerPC with 1 gigabyte of RAM, USB 3.0, SATA, and mini PCI Express. After then, we changed our plan because we found a new processor, ARM from Marvell, which suits better our purpose. So, and now we have first prototypes. So I can be pretty sure that it will not change anymore, and I can share the final specification with you. It is based on Marvell Armada 3A5, which is dual-core ARM 1.6 gigahertz. Thanks to this SoC, the power consumption is around 6 watts, and NAT throughput is almost 1 gigabit per second. It has 1 gigabyte of RAM, 4 gigabyte of eMMC. For those who don't know, eMMC is just SD card soldered directly on the board. 8 megabytes of NOR memory. That's the purpose of this memory is to hold U-boot, which is the bootloader. Well, it needs some better storage than eMMC, so that's the reason why we put there two memories. It has 5+1 gigabit ports and SFP. More about that later. 2 USB 3.0s and programmable RGB LED. 3 mini PCI Express slots. One of them can be switched to mSATA mode. So everything you need to do is just run one command, turn off the router, switch your mini PCI Express card with mSATA SSD hard disk, and reboot again, and you can use it as another storage. We have RTC, so in case of power failure, we still have the actual time with some well, we have it. We have also a crypto chip. For those who are aware of the entropy hole, boot time entropy hole in such a small device, for home routers it's quite hard to gather enough entropy, because usually there are not so many packets flying through it, so there is not so many sources for the entropy. So that's the reason why we put there a separate chip. And if you know Raspberry Pi, we like that board quite much, so we try to do something similar. So we put there a pin header, and you can find on it 10 GPIO pins, 2 UARTs. Actually, one of them is for console, for system console. If you do something wrong in the configuration, this is the last resort of help. SPI and I2C, just for you hackers, if there are some. I told you about the SFP and gigabit ports. I think the internal network connection is quite amazing. If you use such a powerful SoC, you probably will have more than one Ethernet interface. Usually, the companies who is producing the home routers use only one or two of those lines. But I think it's a pity to leave the third one, just leave it there unconnected. So we decided to connect the SoC, which is the main processor, with 2 lines with the switch chip. The switch chip is manageable, so you can decide which physical ports will be connected to the Ethernet interfaces in the system. And regarding the WAN and SFP, there is a OR, so we have card detect sensing or module detect sensing. So immediately, if you put SFP module into the slot, the one port is switched to the SFP, and the Ethernet one is turned off. As I told you, we have the first prototype, and for those who haven't seen it on my table, it looks like this. Actually, this board is not functioning. That's the reason why there are no heat sinks. This is the processor. Here you can see the SFP, battery holder for RTC, 2 USB 3, 3 mini PCI Express slots, and so on. So if you are interested more, just ask me and I can show it to you later. We did some basic benchmarks. Actually, it's OpenSSL benchmarks, and Those are quite favorite benchmarks for OpenWRT community. So we decided to run them at first. And you can see that in MD5 benchmark, we are first. And in the AES 1 to 8, we are on the second place. The reason for this is that Linksys WRT 1200 is quite powerful as well, and it uses the same processor as we do. But we have higher frequency of the CPU. And the reason why we are slower here is that we probably misconfigured the kernel and we turned off some accelerations. So we hope that we will be better than the Linksys. And after then, I will put those results on the wiki, so you'll be able to check it. Speaking about the operating system, it's something what we call Turris OS. But actually, it's a fork of OpenWRT. For those who don't know, OpenWRT is a Linux distribution for home routers, and it's more than 10 years old, so it's quite mature. Thanks to that fact, you have more than 3,000 packages available. You have a root access, so if you put it in a comparison with Android phone, where you can configure it just through the graphical interfaces, with this router, you don't have any problem with logging through the SSH to the box and do anything you want, run your own programs, so on. The reason why we did the fork is that we wanted to add there quite nice feature, and it's automatic updates. We try to release updates every month on a regular basis, but sometimes we find some security problems, like just for example, OpenSSL Heartbleed. I think that we all are aware of it. And it took us 2 days to make an update and to update all those 2,000 devices. Of course, for those who don't want to let their router automatically update itself with our packages, this function can be turned off. There are 2 more things which you cannot find in any other OpenWRT box. One of them is called Mayordomo, and it's if you ever have a television, a smart TV at your home, and have a fear that the TV is connected to some Chinese server and sending a picture of you sitting in front of TV, then this is perfectly for you, because you can easily check through the router interface which device from your network connected to which servers and what kind of data they interchanged. The second feature is called Foris, and it's a wizard for first-time setup of the device. Again, for those who already tried to set up a OpenWRT device, you know that it can be quite tricky because the Lucy, the default interface, it's quite difficult to understand at first look and so on. So that's the reason why we made Foris. It will help you to set up the device in a minute and just click through it, and of course it will enforce you to set up different password for the root access, and updates the router for first time. Of course, that even with the Turris Omnia, you can join the security research, but there is an opt-in policy, so you don't need to. But if you will do, you will have access to more features. Just for example, firewall logs with visualization. something what we call HAS, which is HAS, honeypot as a service. That's basically a honeypot running on our server, and if you want to use it, you will just install one package, and that's basically a man-in-the-middle attack on your port 22. So anybody who will try to connect to your SSH server will be redirected to our server, and what's more, their behavior will be locked, and you can see what the attacker tried to do on our portal if you enter there your login information. So it's really safe to use it because there is no risk that the attacker will somehow break the honeypot and still be able to change the configuration of your router. Last but not least, some IPv4, IPv6 statistics for those who want to see how the IPv6 traffic grows every day. We call this device that it's not just a router, because in our dream, one day these devices becomes something like a decent home server for your intelligent modern house. Speaking about Turris Omnia, it's powerful enough to set up quite fast file sharing or backup services. Thanks to the GPIO ports, you can set up do-it-yourself home automation. We prepared two software packages. One is called Home Assistant, the second one, Domotics. You can set up Tor gateway just to be more safe on the internet if you want to, or just as a gateway for the onion domains, which exists just in the Tor. Of course, not. Why not? You can run our .dns server on the Turris. Plus the resolver. Originally, there should be Marek Wawrusza speaking about not resolver, and we try to adapt it and switch from DNS mask to not resolver. BERT as well, and many more services, and I think you can imagine it's basically a Linux box, so you can run there anything you want. As I said before, everything we do is open source, and the same is true for Turris Omnia. Bootloader, operating system, power management, firmware, everything is open source, and it's already on our GitHub. Schematics will be also released, including full production documentation, but there will be a little delay because one of Turris users wrote us that he found a Chinese forum where those guys were discussing the possibility of producing Turris Omnia and other things we did so far. We are quite happy to see that they are so they want to have it, but we will be also happy if we will be able to sell the parts we already bought and be the first who will ship the router to the customers. Current status and roadmap. As I said, we have the first prototypes. It works somehow. There are a few small hardware bugs, but it can be easily repaired with some soldering, jumper visor, and so on. Second prototype we will have in November. Hopefully, this will be the last series, the last prototype series, so we can start in the manufacturing with the new year and have the first batch ready for shipping by the end of the first quarter. If you remember the talk which Ondřej Filip had on the last Netnod meeting, he told you that we like David Hasselhoff and Knight Rider. So originally this was a video of the LED diodes running here and there, but unfortunately it doesn't work in PDF, so at least the picture. I think I'm quite fast, but that's just a fact. We are running to the end. Do you want one? I hope so. You can do a non-binding pre-register on omnia.turris.cz. We'll be happy to see your interest if this board is something you want. And in the near future, we will start some Indiegogo campaign, and we expect that the bare board will be for $100 or less, and board with the case, Wi-Fi, and power supply will be below $200, something between $150 and $200. There is important note that the price is just because we are basically a non-profit company, and all of the engineers working on this project are paid from other funds. So if you buy this router, you are paying just for the parts and the assembly. That's the reason why it is so cheap. Well, that's the end. Thank you. If you have any questions, just ask me.
Great, thank you, Martin. Any questions at all? Okay, well, thank you very much.